How's it going? It's Todd Medina, Soulogy One Studios, after hours, 2 o'clock in the morning, Houston, Texas, Central Standard Time, on Friday. What do you do when you're out of resources, no internet, and you've used every rock and roll and blues CD that you have in the house? Somehow or another, I found some Beethoven. But you know what? Music is music. It's a universal language, and you got to respect that. It goes a lot further than the human language. So let's see what we can do with this. Give it a shot. As usual, we're trying something new out of necessity. Let's see. Here we go. I'm tired of talking about the Illuminatis. I said Illuminatis, as in kill Illuminatis. Rothschilds, Rockefellers, 13 families, Bushes be Clintons, be Cheneys, be Netanyahus. Staged 9/11, killed RFK, JFK, and MLK. And a man in a cave, bought, trained, and paid for by the CIA, FBI, NSA. 10 years he was MIA, missing in action. Are you going to tell me they can read the warning on a pack of cigs by satellite? And they couldn't find the man behind the curtain? Conspiracy theories deemed crazier than the facts made lies and the lies made facts. So tell me, who is it that's been lazier? The governments we prayed for salvation from, as their machinations took our souls? Or the people who so conveniently gave them the permission to do so? Oh, but don't worry. The Jesus they created is coming. And if he doesn't make it, the fantasy of a Jewish Messiah or the Galactic Federation spaceships will carry us home. I promised heaven. I promised nirvana. They tell us they'll be coming, but not until tomorrow. When are we going to get off our collective asses? Boycott the manipulations of the mosque, temples, and church masses. How many imperfections will we allow ourselves to accept? How much longer will we allow our souls to be sold out and neglected for these plastic pacifiers they stick in our mouths? We allow them to divide us by labels and races. Have you traced the history we will die for? And you've used every rock and roll and blues CD that you have in the house. How's it going? It's Todd Medina.
Place that there seems to be no answer to it. But when you realize that what we call the world is merely a collective projection of human perception, and that if you believe that you are little me, you'll live a little me life, because what you believe you perceive, what you perceive you experience, then you start to realize, because this world is not solid, but it's energetic, it's information, and therefore it's malleable, it's changeable. And so if we had for instance, tonight for me, a massive global transformation in human perception, this world will change immediately. It would have to, because this is just a projection of it. So if you look at, just very quickly, if you look at 2020, an authority handling of the economy, number two perception were those that actually realized actually there's more to know here. There's something strange going on, and I don't believe the government are telling us the truth. But their perception is, if I go against it, well, there will be consequences for me from authority, and therefore I'm going to go under house arrest as well. And as usual, it was the few, and continues to be the relative few. It's getting bigger and bigger all the time, mind. That say, A, I can see it's a scam. A, I can see I'm being lied to, and I'm not going to cooperate with it. And it's that latter group that is going to turn this around, if anyone is.
Yeah. This community and the communities that overlap with it, again, have a lot of similarities in their individual past, like you do, as I said before. One of the things that's very common in this community is that these individuals have a connection, let's just say, with infinite intelligence. Some of that connection is angelic, some of it is elemental, some of it is other divine essences, and a big part of it is galactic. Now, there is a disclosure platform out there, there's a conspiracy platform out there, you might call it, and then there's what I would call the star seed or way shower or light worker platforms, which we would probably fall under. One of my goals is to try to unite all three of those into a singular voice. But having said that, you and those like you have educated us and explained to us that there are higher intelligences behind what we see as the leaders, as the movers and the shakers in the world, the controllers. We can talk about the reptilians, we can talk about the archons and such. Now, the other side of that is this. These folks out here are receiving intelligence from somewhere that is benevolent, that is saying that there's a mission here to turn this thing around and raise the frequency of the earth. And a big part of it is because of you. That
7 years ago.
Wow.
And I listened to them. I thought, it's not going to happen. The point is that we have to do it. To be done, manipulating people to see themselves in the world and events in a certain way so that there will be regard. And so sitting back and waiting for the good guys to arrest the bad guys, well, I've heard it all before. And it's putting off the day when we have to look this in the eye and say, we ain't blinking.
Yeah.
And, you know, I hear the labels, and again, I can only come from where I'm coming from. I don't deal in labels in that sense. When people said to me, who are you? I don't find I just see myself as awareness, a state of being aware. And coming to what you were saying a few minutes ago, we talk about other realms and connections to other realms, but we are the other realms. We are the other realms. We are communicating with ourselves because we, all of us, are not just a point of attention, although the body focuses that attention in the human life. We're not just a point of attention within this infinite field of consciousness and awareness. We are that field. And the question is, how much of that field, that infinity, are we going to tap into? In other words, how much of that infinity are we going to identify with? Are we going to identify with that little bit that calls itself David Icke, born in Leicester, England in 1952? Or are we going to self-identify with the infinite field itself? And the more that you open your self-identity, the more of this field you're tapping into. As your self-identity moves out of the label self, phantom self as I call it, and into a perception of infinite self, that very redefinition of identity, the I, expands your consciousness in relation to the scale of awareness that you are self-identifying with. Now, coming back again, and it's very important because this is how it works, I would suggest, this other world of secret societies, the global cult as I call it, it knows this, and it's set up society specifically to hold people in a deeply limited sense of self-identity. And it's moving towards, and it's talking about it openly in the next 10 years, to connecting artificial intelligence to the human mind, the human brain, so that instead of a awareness that we now call human, even in the 5 sense version of it, we then become simply a computer terminal for AI. And these crazes, they're insane, in Silicon Valley are openly talking about this as a good thing. You'll be superhuman, we'll be gods. No, you won't. You'll be superhuman, you'll be subhuman. That's the whole idea. And so this whole area of who am I, what is the true I, is not some esoteric navel contemplating. It's fundamental to where we go from here. Because if we just identify with the 5 sense world and we try to change the 5 sense world within the 5 sense world, it ain't going to change. I mean, people might have noticed that in 2020. It's going to change when we take on a different self-identity and start tapping into that wisdom, that awareness, that inspiration, and also the power, as you mentioned, of the frequencies that we can, once we tap into, bring into this world and change the energetic nature of this reality. That's how things are going to change, and it's this area. This is the reason that all
that threat to enter my field. I, fortify my own energetic field. I go forth doing what I do with this essence with me, because I heard you say on Renegade that you've never felt alone. You've always felt like something was with you, and I know the people here can relate to that. The other thing that you said was that when you had the wake-up experience and you started on this journey of the last 30 years, that anytime that you started on a project, say a book or whatever the case was, anytime you followed the guidance, synchronistically, people came to you, information came to you, and things came to you. And again, a lot of the people watching this can relate to that because our lives have paralleled yours. Now, what I'm getting at is, in terms of turning this thing around and going off the great answer that you just gave us, in kind of a nuts and bolts, rules of the road, how do we go forward? I think what I'm getting from you is that we maintain and fortify our energetic field. We move forward in alignment, and the things that we need will come to us in synchronicity. It's almost like the best defense is a good offense. I mean, like, you don't seem to be pulled down by the negatives that you're contending with. You seem to be moving against it in a positive motion. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, there's a few things to that. I could talk for a few hours now. Go ahead.
We're all ears.
One of them is this idea that information is negative or positive. It's information. Knowledge is not negative or positive. It's knowledge. And, you can see the uncovering of appalling happenings and manipulations. I spent decades doing that. You can see that as negative. And over the years, some of the most vehement critics of me have been so-called spiritual people, because they've said to me, "Oh, you that's negative. You're putting out all that negative information." Well, I don't perceive it as negative, and I don't think that knowledge is negative. It's knowledge that of, for instance, the appalling things that are going on, who's doing them, and how. That gives you the gift of being able to understand the game and therefore play it in a more effective way. If you don't know how you're being manipulated, or even that you are being manipulated, then nothing's going to stop you being manipulated. You know, if someone's manipulating you behind your back, you've got no chance of doing anything about it. And then when someone taps you on the shoulder and says, look, I've got something to tell you, you know that bloke, you know, you've been trusted. Well, you know what he's doing. Now suddenly you have knowledge. It's not nice knowledge, because you don't want to think that this guy's been manipulating you for ages, but you now have the knowledge to stop it. So this information is to me, it's always a way out of here by understanding how we got into here and how we are maintained here. And you know, in terms of what do we do? Well, I can tell you what I've done for 30 years, and that's follow my intuition. It comes from here in the heart. There's something that you can think, and you can get emotion from down here, and there are different ways of processing information. But this is where I've been coming from all these years, and this is what I've been following. And I mean, people listening to this will understand what I'm saying when I say that you get a feeling here which says yes, which says no, which goes, well, more to know. And that's what I've been doing for all these decades, following this. And this is what's led to the synchronicity of information coming to me, people coming to me, experiences coming to me, because this for me is basically how humanity has become trapped. This says, do what you know to be right. Do what you know to be right. The consequences, okay, you don't go looking for trouble, but if trouble's coming because you're doing what you know to be right, well, trouble can come because I'm doing what I know to be right. That's non-negotiable. But what happens is the head kicks in and the gut kicks in and gives you all the reasons why you shouldn't do what you know to be right. This will give you the fear, and this will list all the consequences and what if, and what happens if you do that. And basically this gets shut down, and you go with this. And this, if you think about it, the head thinking is a very low level of awareness, and the gut, fear, emotion, that's what traps people. The people are trapped here, and this other world knows that. That's why it's used that to trap us. But when this comes forward, and you do what you intuitively, instinctively know to be right, then that overpowers this. And what I found when I was going through this in the early days is, you know, there's a war goes on between your head and your gut and your heart. A war is probably not a good description, but there is a tussle for influence. And what happens is, when you want to follow your heart, you want to follow your intuition. This for me is the energetic connection, the biggest energetic connection to out there. I think the true self resides here during a human experience, the true core of self, or the connection to the true core of self. And what happens is you want to go with this, and then this comes in, gives you all the reasons why you shouldn't, all the consequences of doing that. This gives you the fear consequences, emotional consequences for doing that, and therefore you don't go with it. But what I decided, because you will know that when I came out, first of all, to talk about these things, the spiritual side of it, before I very quickly got into the names, dates, places area in 1990, that I went through enormous levels of ridicule. I mean, historic levels. I mean, it was almost bizarre, the scale of it in this country, where I couldn't walk down any street without being laughed at by people anywhere I went. And you know, you turn the television on, the comedian only had to say my name and people started laughing. And I decided then, coming from where this feeling, that the worst thing I could do by going on with this was to completely mess up. The head, if you like, observes the fact that